they have become very woke political organizations. Now, Pennsylvania, as a lot of other states, have divorced themselves from the National School Board Association, but they have not divorced themselves from the Pennsylvania School Board Association, and a lot of other states have not also from their regional school board associations. So if you go to the Pennsylvania School Board Association and you look at their website, it's very clear that they believe in critical race theory. And when they don't want to call it critical race theory, they call it other things like social and emotional learning. They call it, they'll call it a reimagined way of learning, all these fancy terminologies. So the truth of the matter is, until we get local school districts to divorce themselves also from the school board associations, things will not change, because the school board associations recommend policies and procedures that are very progressive, frankly.
So do you think you'll be able to get them unlocked or disconnected from that, or?
Well, the best way to do it is to take over the school board. Here in Pennsylvania, we're unique as a Commonwealth because the school boards have total control. They have absolute control, really, over how the education system runs within their communities. Unfortunately, our school district, although majority Republican, is still listening to the administration, which is following the teachers' unions and the school board association. So until we replace the school board, things are not going to change. So my recommendation to other school districts in Pennsylvania and even throughout the country is, if you really want to see change in your school district, the thing to do is to get a group of parents together and take over the school board however you can. Join the community, go to school board meetings, become active members of those meetings, ask questions, and when you don't receive answers, here in Pennsylvania it's called right to know requests. It's similar to the FOIA requests, Freedom of Information requests. So you need to make those requests to the administration in the school district, find out what's going on in the district, take the time to read the curriculum, read the textbooks, see what the children are actually viewing. And not just curriculum and textbooks, you also have to be aware that there are surveys that they're being given that are very progressive. They're asking the kids all sorts of things that they should not be asking, about gender identity, about even financial issues. These things, they're not necessary. The kids shouldn't be learning these things. They shouldn't be taught these things. So it's not just curriculum and textbooks. It's surveys, it's questions, it's a lot of ancillary material. For instance, in the curriculum, you will see an explanation given that the curriculum's X, Y, and Z, and then ancillary materials will be very vague. They'll just say, oh, and ancillary materials and associated videos, but they won't tell you what those videos are. They won't tell you what those articles are that they'll be using. And you need to find that out, because they can be very progressive materials. And that's how they get it in on the side without putting it in the curriculum. They leave it for the ancillary stuff, so videos, other articles, and such.
Keep it vague and, do what you like, basically.
They keep it very vague for the teachers to insert whatever they like. Now, I have to say, there are lots of great teachers out there. I've had wonderful mentors of mine who have been teachers. However, there are bad actors in this world, as everyone knows. And unfortunately, there are more of them. As more of the your standard teacher retires, who was willing to be nonpartisan and just simply teach the children, retires, you have these very woke, progressive teachers who are now being introduced into the school system, and they have an agenda. They don't want to merely teach the children, they really want to indoctrinate them into progressive and Marxist ideology. And make no mistake, progressivism today in the United States is based in socialist Marxist theory, and that is the goal. They want social revolution here in the United States.
So you got to start somewhere, so they figure start at the youngest age, right? Get them while you can, and the most malleable, and
Yes,
go for it.
absolutely. Well, for many years they were content to rule the university system. Having worked in the university system, I know all too well that Marxism and socialism is alive and well in the university system. However, since Common Core was introduced in 2009, things have started to turn, and the influence of socialism and Marxist ideology in K through 12 is vast now, and it's incremental, but it's slowly picking up speed. And this was always the plan. If you listen to people back in 2008 and 2009 talking about Common Core, the plan was to incrementalize the education system with this ideology. They weren't going to give it to us all at once. They were going to do it in increments, and this is what's happening throughout the country. And COVID gave us a unique window into what was happening, and now the parents and community members, grandparents, we have many grandparents who are involved in trying to keep the school district accountable as well. So now that they've seen what was going on in these school districts, including ours, they want to have a voice in what's done in these districts. And I think it's important that people get involved. You know, one of the first things that I said when I went to my first school board meeting was that I was upset with what was going on in the system, but I also felt that we were responsible as parents and as a community. We were culpable. And however, the school district and the school boards now need to know that we're going to be involved as parents and as community members and as taxpayers. And I understand that they don't like that, but that's too bad. You know, these are our children, this is our community, and we're paying for these school districts. We should have a voice in what goes on in these school districts.
It's interesting. I was down in Harrisburg, and there was a you know, the topic was you know, teach education, not indoctrination. You know, and there was a woman there. She was just a local mom. Anyway, she made the point about that, you know, school boards, their whole thing is, you know, once the kids are in the building, you have no, you know, like you almost like have no voice. You know, I mean, they take it that seriously. So, I mean, it seems like, I mean, how did they get it so it is that way? I mean,
well, I think they come, you know, there's a socialist mindset that it takes a village, and that somehow once your child leaves your front door, that they somehow belong to the state. And that's just, not only is it incorrect, and not only is it not legal, it's un-American. The only umbrella of village that we recognize in the United States is that of the Constitution and the structure under the Constitution. So do we think that the children belong to the village of being an American, of a citizen of the United States? Absolutely. But when it comes to what the children fundamentally learn and what they believe, what they're taught morally, that belongs to parents and family members. So I think they're wrong. You know, the school districts, the teachers unions, teachers, we're grateful that they're teaching our children, but instruction morally ends at the front door of the school. We're the parents. We're responsible for instructing our kids in morality, and also about history as well. I mean, this is not an if-then kind of concept. The parents, in conjunction with the school district, teach our children. That's how it's always been. It's been that way for almost 250 years. So there's no need to go away from that. And I think that's where the school districts get it wrong. It's not about them owning our children. It's about them instructing our kids in the fundamentals of education, which is part of the problem also. I mean, what we've seen, in all honesty, is that as the wokeness creeps into the structure of curriculum and learning, the children are falling behind. So they're learning less and less about the fundamentals of education, and more about these social issues that are taking away from the fundamentals that they need to learn in education.
So it's interesting. I drive a school bus, so you know there's a lot of issues, you know, like with dealing children. So I mean, even like legal issues, we have to be aware of a lot of legal issues, which is like, hey, so I really believe on some level that the law has also been weaponized, right? So somehow they use the legal system as well in order to dominate the dialogue. So do you have any thoughts on that, or?
I think in a broader sense that we as a society have this issue with government being too large. So it's not only in education. I think we see this pervasive mindset, as you said, throughout society. So I was just speaking with somebody earlier, and the Federal Registry of Laws is so large that the federal government's not able to document how many laws we actually have on the books. So I think we need to parse down the rules and regulations, and I think that the swamp, as it's called, is very much using all these rules and regulations to dictate policy, where they a lot of times don't have that power to dictate policy, but they're using these administrative rules and regulations that we find in government. And I think that we need to parse back that aspect of government. I think one of the most brilliant things President Trump did in his presidency, one of the first things he did was, for every rule or regulation one of the offices made, they had to take away 2 rules or regulations. And I think that if we continue to do that, we parse down the government's ability to be involved in our lives. I think at the heart, every American is really very libertarian. They want less government, and they want more freedom. They don't want the government involved in their lives. And I think that's honestly a very bipartisan issue. There are people on the left and the right that don't want the government involved in their lives, and I think we're probably better off for that.
Very good. So that's about 12 minutes. So I'm just wondering, is there anything else that you wanted to, I mean, I think we covered some good ground there. Is there anything else that you wanted to talk about?
No, I think focusing in on education is really important. I'd like people to understand that, these are our kids, and the future of our country, the future of the world is with these children. And if they're not learning to love one another, which is a fundamental thing, they should be learning, number one, to love one another. They shouldn't be put in these disparate tribal kind of boxes where, oh, you're not my color, or you're not my gender, or you're not this or that. We're all Americans here. Pride is about having pride in the country we live in. The pride flag for me is the beautiful American flag that you see behind us here. That's the pride flag we should all be invested in. The Constitution means fundamental rights for everyone, and that's the beauty of the Constitution. So we shouldn't try and chop up the Constitution to make it one thing or another thing. It safeguards all of us, and that we need to really remember that. So I think teaching the kids that is fundamental, and then teaching them the things that they need to learn, reading, writing, arithmetic, and all the other things are more important for them to learn, to have steady, stable lives, to have more importantly, a steady and stable future, to have those things taught first, and then let them learn when they become adults. Let the children have their childhood. That's one of the things that I think that people are missing in this left-right issue. We need to allow the kids to have their childhood, and I think that's really the most important thing.
And as part of that whole multi-level of education, then critical thinking also, right? Because I think that's such an important, where they can actually be mature enough to make their own decisions.
I think the beauty of just humanity in general is that we all, as we age, develop critical thinking. We can guide children, we can help them along the way, but I think we as people, we develop critical thinking in our own unique way. And the beauty of our country is that outside of all the other countries, critical thinking is developed more freely here because we have the ability to think and act and do as we like and as we please here. This is why the Pilgrims came here in the first place. They wanted freedom, not just of religion, but freedom to think correctly, how they would like to run their own lives. And I think, you know, the more we foster freedom and liberty, the more critical thinking is open for however you want to develop that. And I think that's fundamental. And that's why millions of people still want to come here. They don't want to go to China. They want to come here.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, Ron. I appreciate it.
Yeah, anyway,